Okay, let's redo this one more time with a different example. Let me give you all a couple of examples. See what you can come up with. Okay, so let me give you strontium sulfide. See what you can come up with. Take a couple of seconds or a few seconds. Try to come up with a name for this. All you have to do is figure out, and let me give you a list of non-metals. I think I've given this list prior in the past sessions. These are typically your non-metals. You can have nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. These are typically your non-metals. Of course, there's boron and other things, but for now, we're going to just focus on this. So I have clearly walked you through on the previous slide. Take about a 30-second. You don't need more than that, really. I've given you a name. It's easy to go from a name to a formula than the other way around. Okay. So Lucy, what did you come up with? Tell me what's the first thing I do. If I give you this name and I have you write the formula for it, what's the first thing I do? What's the first thing I did?
Write. Hold on.
Okay, what kind of compound is it? Is strontium a metal or non-metal?
It's a metal.
Okay, very good. And is sulfide a metal? Sulfide is an alternate name for sulfur, right?
Right.
So sulfide stems from sulfur, which is a metal or non-metal?
Non-metal.
Very good. Now, metal or non-metal is simply there to suggest that this would lead to an ionic compound, right?
Yes.
The reason I'm keep saying that like a broken record is because I am trying to relate every concept back to everything we learned. We're not learning chapter options in my class. We are learning through a concept map. Every little detail is related to every other detail throughout the course. Okay? All right. This is your first thing. The reason I say that is, again, you want to get into the habit of recognizing what type of compound you have. What's the second step? If you want, I can call this a step 1. All right, let's go to maybe step 2 in a different color. All right, what's the step 2?
Finding out their electrons.
Yes. So, but before that, you want to write the symbols first, right?
Right.
Strontium is Sr, and sulfide comes from sulfur, so you just write sulfur, right?
Yes.
Okay, now is what you were saying is going to happen. So you go to the periodic table, and we know the bottom line is metals always lose. I don't know of a metal that is gained. Again, this video will be published, and I always challenge my YouTube viewers, anyone such watch, if they watch my video, I don't know why they would come to YouTube to watch my video, but if they do, I always challenge them, please post a metal that has accepted electrons. I don't know of it. So non-metals typically gain electrons. This is bottom line, okay? And metals, when they lose electrons, have a positive charge. Non-metals, when they gain electrons, have a negative charge. I'm going to box this again. I did that on the previous screen, but this is foundational chemistry. I mean, this is foundational as it gets. You cannot forget this. If you forget this, that's where your problem starts. All right, Lucy, now tell me what's the Roman numeral on top of strontium in the periodic table?
2.
2A, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is that? What does 2 means? How many can strontium lose? Can it lose 3?
No, it can only lose 2.
Very good. Peggy, right?
Yeah.
Very good. It can only lose 2, right?
Yes.
Where is sulfur in the periodic table? What column it's under? I'm guessing it's 6A.
6A.
All right. Because non-metals gain, the 6 is merely there to adjust to how much it needs to get to 8, right?
Yes.
Okay, 8 is a stable number. Think of it as a magic number. This is a magic number. How many would it need to go from 6 to 8? Simple math.
2.
Very good, Diana. So you need 2 electrons, right?
Mm-hmm.
This has no bearing on the strontium. That's the beauty of it. It does not listen to strontium. Strontium does not listen to sulfur. They react. It's like a husband and wife. They never get along, but they remain married for 45 years, just like that, all right? Okay, that's why I never got married. So I don't like to listen. There you go. Okay, I hate listening to people. So that's exactly the analogy I can give you. Husband and wife, married for 40 years, never listen to each other. Okay?
Well, that's
So
just
that's the
wrong.
analogy I can give you. All right?
That's wrong, Lucy. Don't listen to him, girls.
No, I listen to my students. My students are my #1 priority. I'm just saying outside my class.
Uh-huh.
All right, strontium, we're deviating. All right. So strontium is, it has no bearing with what it's going to combine with, but it's a strontium is 2, right? It can only lose 2 electrons because it's 2A, and because it's losing its positive charge. Okay. Sulfur is 6A, right? It gains 2 electrons, so it's 2, but it will get a negative charge. That's what I meant by when these 2 combine, they don't listen to each other. They only get how many they want and how many they want to lose, right? But because this is a perfect picture, they both have 2's and 2's, we can simply cancel them out and write them as SRS. Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's try one more, but this time I'm going to have you all try, and I would give little input in this case. So let's give you a compound, maybe lithium phosphide. I'm guessing one of these is already on the homework. There's only so many I can create because there's only so many compounds available. I cannot make up numbers. These have to be real compounds. So this is the compound. Go ahead and write the formula for it. You have everything in front of you on the screen. Just do it systematically, then you will never ever have problems. Only if you try to take shortcuts. You can do that when you're comfortable with the material, not when you're starting to learn something. You have to follow some kind of a procedure or protocol, so it seems to work fine. All right, who has an answer? If anybody has it, it should not take you really that long. All you need is your paper.
I have one. I have an answer.
All right, go ahead, Diana.
Li3P.
How many of you that are in the session had the same answer? This is the correct answer. Did you have the same, Peggy?
Yes.
Very good. What about you, Lucy? Did you have the same answer?
Yes.
Very good. That means you all got the concept. That's just that simple. All right. Now let's try moving forward with, say, chromium. When you talk about transition metals, in the name itself, you see I give you the Roman numerals, because transition metals, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 names here and have you write me the formulas for it. When I write my transition metal, I will be very specific on what the Roman numeral is. And this is actually easier than your other ionic compounds because this actually gives you what the charge is. So let me work out one for you. Because chromium is a transition metal, it means they have varying oxidation numbers or varying positive charges. That's what it really means. The transition metal, this is a non-metal. Okay, very good. So what this means is that you still do the same, write your symbols. Chromium is not CH. Some students do write CH, it's CR. Sulfur comes from sulfide comes from sulfur, so that is S. All right, now here's what I meant by working with transition compounds are easy, because transition compounds always have the same pattern. There is no exceptions to it. The 3 right here is only tagged to the chromium. So that means it's 3. Well, whether it's a transition metal or some other metal, a metal is a metal, okay? It can only lose electrons, so it will only get a positive charge.
Okay.
And sulfur, well, sulfide comes from sulfur. I just told you that in the last 2 examples. And the Roman numeral for sulfur is 6A. So that means it needs 2 electrons to get to 8.
So it'll be -2.
So it'll be 2, but because it's a non-metal and it's gaining, it's 2 minus. If you see, there's a pattern. Again, chromium has no bearing with, because it's combining with sulfur, it does not change its lifestyle. It will continue to be +3 because that's what that is. It can only lose 3. It cannot lose 4 in this compound. So the chromium and sulfur directly don't have direct communication, but they kind of work together to make it happen. Right now, again, we run into a situation where these 2 things are not equal. Let me circle it so you can see what I am seeing. So this right here is +3. This here is 2 minus. These numbers are not same, and so the only way they will communicate in such a way that they agree with each other is I bring the 3 here and the 2 here. So the chromium gets the 2, the sulfur gets the 3. Now, this is the correct answer. What students do is because this 3 is tagged here, they write it as this. This is incorrect. This is correct. This is, yes, chromium still has +3 charge, but when it makes a compound, it has to at some point listen to the sulfur, and the sulfur at some point has to listen to the chromium. So that is chromium sulfide. So this is the correct answer. This is incorrect. I'm only boxing the correct answer. So go ahead and give this compound a shot, the second one on the list. If you know how to do this, then I'll give you a formula and have you write the names. That's the second step. You should be able to write formulas first from names. That's the foundation. If you can't do that, going the other way around, it's not going to work. Follow it systematically. Be surgical or clinical about it, because these techniques that I have discovered over the years are foolproof. I mean, if you follow this every single time, you can do 100 compounds in a minute or 2 minutes without no problems. You will get it right every single time. I'm not teaching you any method that has some exception, that's a loophole that you don't know and you end up getting stuck. No, all these will work every single time. There are no exceptions to my rules that I create, because I work to get these in such a way that it's meaningful to students. All right, does anybody have an answer for the bottom one? Peggy, do you have it?
Yes, CR5N6.
No, okay. This is 6, right? Okay, you got this wrong. What's wrong with this?
Should be 3.
Should be 3.
Oh, I forgot to do the 8. Yeah.
When I talk to students, you know, when I said earlier about the marriage reference, that's different. But when I talk to students, I give them the first priority. Every single mistake they make gets registered in my head. I may not tell you that, but when I make a test, each question is designed for some of you because it will have an answer choice just like this.
That's just not nice.
No.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yes. That means you know that when you see that question, if you get it wrong, I think that's for me. I was just messing with you. So it should have been CR 3 and 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because as I said, you got to first tag this to 6 plus.
Okay.
And then nitrogen, as I said, is 5A, and you
Mm-hmm. So it needs 3.
electrons to get to 8A,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
It's 3 minus. So when you swap, you can. So I have seen students write this also, which is also correct. This is also correct. They divide the whole thing by 2 to get divide by 3 to get CR 1 and 2. Both are correct, but I will not give both on the test. Okay, it will be only one of the two things. All right.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Peggy? The mistake you made?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Lucy, are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm a little confused on that bottom answer that you said both are right.
Well, basically, this is 3, this is 6, right? 3 is a common multiple. I have seen people write this also as a correct answer, which is also correct, but I will not test you that.
Okay. Okay.
The reason I say that is if you have spoken to any of your classmates, and if they watched a YouTube video somewhere, they may have seen this and they may tell you this is the correct answer. I don't want you to be alarmed because of that.
Okay.
This is also correct, but I am not going to test you this. I will just leave it right here because that's the way I have taught it. Some people condense it even further. Like if you divide both this by 3, you will get this, which is also. Now, this is for both ionic and transition metal compounds. They both result in ionic. So let me give you a few compound where see if you can take the compound and create. Okay, write the names for it.
Is A an L or an I?
What's that? A is the ZN.
See.
Well, heck, I was way off.
Yeah.
Writing and speaking is not my strong suit, at least in the language that I'm not so used to. So please bear with me.
No, that's fine. I'm used to this language and it's still not mine, so.
Keep in mind, there is a rule that I briefly mentioned in the previous screen. I just want to see how many of you paid attention to that. That's why we are doing transition metal compounds and write their names. And then let me write one more. You just have to know those I's, that's all. All right, so let's see what you can do with these 3. If you can do this 3, more likely everything else that's along these lines on the first 2 questions on the homework is all going to be the same. Trust me, it will be the same. Take your time. I'll give you about 3 minutes, a minute per question. You have to get it wrong if you don't know to get it right eventually. If you think you're gonna, if you feel that you're bored because you didn't get it right, then you'll never get it right. You have to get it wrong sometimes to get it right eventually. All these are transition metal compounds. Now, I will not tell you on the test whether it's a transition metal compound or covalent compound or ionic compound. It is your job to figure it out, but then you have the periodic table sitting in front of you. Let me give a clue for some of you that I've forgotten or missed anything. You may have to watch all my videos at least more than once. All non-metals will end with IDE. All non-metals names end with IDE. I gave you the list of what those non-metals are. That's pretty much all I will test you. I don't think I can ask you anything outside of it because there are not many compounds that exist that I can test you. I think with the homework, the quiz, and this session, I've pretty much exhausted every compound. So if you know all these, I can only ask from the same thing. I can create new compounds for this class because it's impossible. Those non-metals I wrote, those are the only ones that you can have. I mean, I can't just go create a new element or create a new name for it. All right, does anyone have an answer for A?
Zinc nitride.
All right. You know, this particular one, I will give anyone that writes zinc nitride as correct answer, but to be consistent with what I'm teaching, there is something missing in here. What is that?
Should be zinc dinitride.
Nope.
Nope.
We don't write. Okay, let's write that down. You brought up a good point, Diana. You probably helped a lot of your peers. No di, tri, etc. for ionic and transition metal compounds.
Okay.
You cannot ever use them because they are standard. They will never change much. I should not see a di or tri anywhere in the naming because they just don't work that way. Okay. I think that was also one of the rules I created when I did the video. All right, but there is something missing. What did you all saw on the previous screen that we tagged the metal from when it's a transition metal compound?
The number, Roman numeral.
Okay, and what is that Roman numeral here?
Should be 3.
3 or 2?
2.
You got to go back, right, Diana?
Mm-hmm.
To get that, right?
Okay, so it'd be 2.
Again, that's. I'm not saying when I said that I meant it casually, but mostly I have taught these for a long time, so I know where students stumble upon.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Because their brain is so engraved in one style, they stop and go to the other way. Okay, so this should have been 2, not 3.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yes.
You have to do this. This is the way I explained it in the video. To make sure you get the Roman numeral, just move the numbers back. And because you move the numbers back doesn't mean you can flip charges. Metals will still be pluses, and you underline it so you can see it. Metals still have to be plus. Non-metals still have to be negative. That's it. There is no alternative to that. I mean, this does not change whether you take the class here or in Zurich or Bern or anywhere else in the world. They may speak a different language teaching this, but that does not change because you go to a different country. All right, so keep this in mind. I mean, I would probably not test zinc because zinc has an exception and I've not taught you that. You can skip writing the Roman numeral for zinc, but I would probably ask you something other than zinc because of that. All right. Does anyone have a name for this one? For B.
Copper 2 chloride.
Very good. If you're a little bit off in your spelling, don't worry because this is going to be a multiple choice test, so things would already be there. You don't need to worry about coming up with this. But if you know the idea, when you look at the screen, one of the 5 choices would be this, and you can just select that and move on. All right. All right. Last one. This is a little tricky. It's always tricky when you have 2 numbers on the bottom. Again, like I said, you've got to flip it first to get exactly what the charges are. The 3 is not for the titanium, the 4 is not for the nitrogen. It's the opposite. We're going backwards, like we in the previous example, we came forward. Here we're going backward. So this would have been 4, this would have been 3, right? You see, it always works out. Nitrogen will be 3. It would never be 5, it would never be 6, it would never be 7, never be 1, never be 2, because it is 5. Now, keep in mind, titanium is a metal, so it's positive. Nitrogen is a non-metal, so it's negative.
Right.
Now you come back and write, say, Ti is titanium, by the way. There is also a Tl, which is tantalum. That don't mix these two up. And titanium nitride is the answer. But again, what's the Roman numeral is dependent on what's that plus charge on top of titanium. It's 4, right?
4.
So it will be titanium 4 nitride. This is exactly how you do the first 2 questions on that homework. Let me do something else here. We did do transition metal compounds. So let me give you a couple of same business. This is all ionic compounds with just group 1, group 2 metals. Write the formulae for it, and then I will give you a formulae and have you write a name for it. So in the first problem, I've given you a name and then have you write the formula. In the second case, I've given you a formula and have you write a name. They're the same thing. And the way I am teaching all these concepts are primarily related to any board exams you will take. I'm not teaching you stuff that would never make it to any of the board exams you will take. And if you believe me, at the end of this course, go ahead and give a shot on some of the board exam questions. You will see everything that I've taught you will be on that exam. But most of the material I'm teaching you is directly on those exams. All right, so does anyone have an answer for the first one?
SR3P2.
SR3P2, very good, right? Because let me work it out for people that didn't make it to the session. As always, you write the elements symbols first. Strontium is SR, phosphide comes from phosphorus, so it's P. Strontium is in group 2A, so it's a metal, so it'll be 2 plus. Phosphide comes from phosphorus, which is in 5A, so it needs 3 electrons to get to 8A. So that means it's 3, and it's a non-metal, so it's negative. And then I'm going to guess you all swap the numbers. 2 comes over here, 3 comes over here, and there's your SR3. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yeah.
Now, does it make sense why I didn't answer your question directly when you first asked me your question? Now you figured it out yourself.
Right.
If I had directly answered your question, you would not be able to do this. That's why. All right. Does anyone have a name for the second one?
Calcium 2 phosphide.
Nope. No Roman numerals for alkali metals and alkaline earth metals.
Okay.
Okay. That's why I tested this right away, because your brain is now coded with that Roman numeral philosophy. You would apply to it. That's why I taught this right away. No Roman numerals for alkali and let me write this way so that you may not, no Roman numerals for group 1A and 2A elements? Because they don't ever change, Lucy. That's why. The reason we throw in the Roman numeral for transition metals is because they can have multiple positive charges for a single element. That is usually not the case for your group 1A and 2A elements. That's why we don't have to write the Roman numerals in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Now the third question on the homework has to do with, all this is recorded, so you don't have to write it down. If you want, you can write it down. The last one we did is a single element, okay? An element that is positively charged, okay? And that's cation, essentially. This is a cation. And the second one we did, in all these cases that we have done just today, we did a single ion. The element is like chlorine, bromine, nitrogen, etc., right? But on the third question on the homework, we did a polyatomic anion. Okay, what that means is the anion itself is made up of 2 or more elements, at least 2 for our class. There are also 3. So in the examples we have done leading up to this concept is we looked at, say, previously, let me write it so I can contrast it to explain before I explain. Previously we said, like, we did calcium, nitrogen, we did chromium, phosphorus. You see, this is one element, this is one element. So there could be P3, like you can ask me, hey, there you said, but it could be Cr3, say P4, okay? This is still only one phosphorus. There's no 2 kinds of elements, right? There could be 4 of the phosphorus, but it's still only one phosphorus, right? Right?
Right.
But what I am meaning by polyatomic ions is nitrates. You know, nitrates are used in foods, fertilizers, everywhere. Unfortunately, there is no way I have posted it on the PowerPoint. You have to remember this 5 or 6 things, okay? That's the only thing, I hate to say it, but that's the only thing you would have to memorize in this whole class. I don't expect you to, again, you're working from home, so you don't even have to do that, but people in my in-seat class, I do require them during the entire 16-week class, they have to remember only memorize one thing, which is this, okay? There is no getting around it. So if nitrate, these are the anions I have given you. It's in the PowerPoint that I've given you. It's in the last slide, I believe. Nitrate is an anion. It's NO3 1 minus. R minus, doesn't matter. Let's focus on just the 2 because the reminder is all, again, this should not be a concern for you because you're working from home, but for my in-seat people, this is something they do have to memorize, but it becomes a practice that you don't need to. Now, keep in mind, this is a polyatomic ion because it's got a nitrogen and it's got oxygen. If you look on this side, there may be 4 phosphorus in the entire compound, but it's only 1 phosphorus. There's no 2 kinds of it, right?
Right.
Naming this is slightly different than naming these, okay? Again, nitrate means it's got O3, nitrite means O2. You don't need to memorize this for, again, this is all in the slide. When you take your exam, you should be having all this material in front of you. Now, moving on, let's say I give you this as my compound. How do you write the name for it? Some of the knowledge is still the same from the previous material. What's the first thing you do? You write the symbol for calcium, right? Right?
Right.
Okay, and where is calcium in the periodic table?
2A.
2A, right? And calcium is a metal, right? So would it gain or lose?
It would gain.
No, calcium is a metal.
Lose.
Okay, you can't get that wrong. It will always lose, right?
Right.
How many would it lose would depend on the 2A, right?
Right.
That's a say. Now this part you have to get, well, since you're working from home and you take the exam, you have to just have that slide open and you will get this information. Okay?
Okay.
Now, this is not the problem for students. It is the swapping part that's a problem. Okay? So you bring the 1 and you bring the 2, right? Now let me write you what they write. Despite telling them a few times, they still make that mistake. I'm not saying you do, but there's people I've seen historically make that mistake, which is incorrect. I'm going to say incorrect. You may wonder, why can't you just write the correct? Because only if I show you the incorrect one, you don't need, if it is 1, you don't ever have to show 1, but this is what they write. You've seen it in my video as well. You cannot go from 3 oxygens to 32 oxygen by swapping, okay?
Okay.
This is incorrect. You cannot do this. Now I'm going to show you the correct version on what's happened. This is what students do, and I have seen it happen, and they even go for it on the test. You have not done a chemical reaction. You're just creating a formula, and you cannot go from 3 oxygens to 32 without doing anything to the molecule, okay? So calcium, you don't ever have to show the 1. Open a bracket. Whenever you deal with polyatomic ions, open a bracket and put this whole NO3 inside the bracket and move the 2 outside of it. These 2 are not the same. Okay? I can't emphasize it. The one on the left is not same as one on the right. They have completely different meaning. So whenever you write polyatomic ions, the entire ion, including the nitrogen, oxygen, and the 3, should be inside the bracket. If you don't write the bracket, that has this has a completely different meaning than this. Okay? Something we will get to. This has a different meaning than this. They're not the same. All right, so let's keep that in mind. Again, I will, for time being, I will give you those ions and then say chromium. Now this is a transition metal, so some of the rules are still the same, and I'm going to give you the compound. And if you look on the list, sulfate is this. This is sulfate. I've given you this, and I've given you the name. Now all you need is put them together. I'll give you like 30 seconds, see what you can come up with. Take your time. If you need more time, you can tell me. But honestly, you wouldn't need a lot of time for this type of problems. Did you get it, Peggy?
Yeah, I don't know if it's right, but
Yeah, go ahead and give it to me so I can write it down and then we can discuss about it.
okay, CR2
Okay?
and then bracket SO4, end of
Okay.
bracket, and then 6.
That's it.
Okay.
Did you get that same thing, Lucy?
I wasn't finished, but yes, I was going to end up with that.
Very good. Now, let me give you, I mean, does that seem to make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, this is how you do it. There are no exceptions to it. This is something you do not have to memorize. It's all in that PowerPoint that I've tagged with week 3.
Okay.
Go to the last slide. I think it's on one of the last slide or the penultimate slide. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of the 2 slides. It's in that, if you go to week 3 PowerPoint, it has the names of these polyatomic ions. I think it's in one of the slides. It has to be more towards the very end of the PowerPoint, okay? All right, so with that said, let's see. Normally aluminum is not written with 3, but I am going to again keep consistent with the way I am teaching you. Give it a shot. Aluminum 3 nitrate, and I just gave you nitrate on the previous screen, but let me write that down here.
So you said if it's a 1, whether it be positive 1 or negative, we don't have to put that down there beside the.
No. 1, you don't have to, because it's automatically inferred from the structure.
But if we do, that's not marked wrong, is it?
No.
Okay.
But because the way I'm going to create you, I would have already made the choices, so I would have not included the 1 in there.
Right, cool. Okay.
So do you have it, Lucy? Let me give you the chance this time. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to work this previous problem so that for people that didn't make it to the class can do this. The 6 is stacked to the chromium, so it's chromium 6 plus, and sulfate is 2 minus. 2 comes here, 6 comes outside, and that's how we end up with this.
Would it be AL bracket
Okay?
NO3, close the bracket, and then 3?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
Okay.
That's pretty much week 3 homework and quiz.
Okay.
This is all there is. There's 3 different questions on the homework, but anything we did prior to polyatomic ions, that's homework number 1 and 2. Anything we did with the polyatomic ion, that's question 3 on the homework. There's only 3 questions on the homework total. Shouldn't be very long. And the quiz is all related to just these 3 topics that we just discussed. So if you've still not made the attempt, the quiz closes tomorrow midnight. Homework, again, you have to submit it before midnight. Okay?
Right.
And then I think, Peggy, you were not there. I gave some initial instructions about the exam. The exam will be purely multiple choice. Okay? And normally for my class or anywhere I teach, I don't make an exam perfectly for a time. Normally I make a test that's an hour long, but I usually give people 2-hour time. So it will be a timed exam, okay? But all my exams always have extra time, whether the person has a test taking disability or not. I give everybody that same privilege, okay?
Okay, when is the exam?
Okay, yeah, that's my third thing I was going to say is the test would open Thursday morning, 6:30 a.m. and would automatically close on Sunday midnight at 11:59 p.m. Okay?
Okay.
I will send all this by email again because I don't expect people to watch a video to learn it. That's unprofessional. I will email everybody that same information I just told you.
And real quick about the homework. So you said you're going to upload homework 2 grades, and then we have a week to redo it?
Yeah, that was the fourth thing I was going to say is I will be sending out your homework 2 grades either later tonight or tomorrow morning because I want to be careful entering grades. That's not a joke. So I usually take my time with entering grades so I don't enter your grade into someone else's box or someone else's grade into your box and scare you or freak you. Like, no, I would have never got a 0. So I'm usually very careful about that, all right?
Thank you.
So I will send you grades tomorrow morning and you'll have till Friday midnight to do the redo for it. Now, you don't need to turn in the entire homework again. Let's say you missed 2 questions out of 10. Just redo only the 2 and tell me these are the 2 problems I missed. I will grade that. Once I have your redo, I will regrade it and enter your full score back again on Moodle.
Okay.
Now for homework 1, you don't have to do a redo because it's already excluded from your grade.
Right.
However, in your best interest, if you have any questions, just from week 1 material, forget about the homework, just from the videos, if you have questions, you're always welcome to shoot an email. Okay?
Okay.
And then I'm still debating if I should have a Saturday Zoom session next week or not. But even if I do, I will not answer any questions related to week 1, 2, 3. It would have to be week 4, week 5 questions. Okay?
Okay.
But this is all there is. Everything I've told you in the last hour is all there is you need for week 3 quiz and homework, potentially for the exam. Okay?
Okay.
I highly recommend I highly recommend anyone that will be watching this session later is to watch all my Zoom sessions first, watch all my videos, rework any homework 2, homework 1, any quiz questions, just to be thorough with the material. I think all my Zoom sessions have been comprehensive. I've answered just about any questions people have had. So I would have answered questions that some of your peers may have had, and highly recommend watch the Zoom session for each week so that you're on top of the material.
Okay.
So
The first
do you all
week
have
was
any questions for me? So I will send everything I've just told you by email about the homework 1, homework 2 redo, exam information and stuff. So it's more formal and everybody gets that same information. But
Okay.
exam 1 should be available Thursday morning at 6:30, and then we'll close at Sunday midnight, 11:59 p.m. You'll get 1 attempt to complete the test. Test is going to be all multiple choice questions, and you get 2 hours to take the 1-hour exam. Okay? Once you start, you must complete. You can take it anytime between Thursday 6:30 a.m. to Sunday 11:59 p.m. But Saturday 11:59 p.m., which is Sunday midnight. But you have to complete it once you start the test. Okay?
Okay, so you can't get up and walk away. That's good to know.
Yes, because I've given 2 hours. So say if there's 20 questions, you should be, even the 1 hour that I say, I'm being generous there with my time. Normally my test, if you know the material, bing, bang, 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 it will be done in 30 minutes, you'll be done with the test. So you still have an hour and a half left. So I always recommend students spend more time on each question, make sure you get it right, and then go to the second one. Okay?
Okay.
So you really won't even be using the entire 1 hour first in the first place. But if you're struggling or you think you need more time, you have an extra hour to complete it. But once you start, your clock would start, and automatically at the 2-hour period, the test would be saved and it would automatically close. So any questions you've answered at that point will be graded. Okay?
Okay.
And you will know the grade right away because I would have set it up such a way that you will know your exam score right at the end of the test.
Sounds
Okay.
So you won't even have to email me and ask, hey, what's my grade on exam 1? You would know it right away. When you finish, it'll tell you whether you have an A, B, C, or D, or E, or F. But the way I'm hoping no one gets below B.
Yeah.
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 That's why we're doing all this. Now, if this was a traditional online course, there was no Zoom session, there was no video, you basically have to read the book every week, and then you would that's how it was set up when I first logged in and looked at the class. So anything we are doing is only for your benefit. It's not how it's supposed to be.
Well, the book doesn't make any sense.
No.
That is something I've been advocating for a long time. Is chemistry books are not written for students. Chemistry books are written for chemists.
Right.
I don't know why students are ever recommend. And that's why I had no one buy the book in my class, because that's $300 saved in all my classes.
Yeah, well, I have a book for you.
What's that?
I have a book for you. I went and bought one.
I did too.
So,
Well,
but
if you have seen the syllabus, it says textbook is optional. And even if you watched my welcome video, I clearly said you don't need the book because, like you said yourself, the book doesn't make sense. You think the book walks you through like the way I walked in the video?
no.
No.
And then this was one of my research questions in my PhD is, can students visually translate in English? You all speak English, you write English. This is written in English on the screen too. But students cannot, 98% of students in a chemistry class cannot read English in a chemistry textbook and translate it into a visual image and make sense of it. I'm saying 98% of students cannot do it. I had 45 students in my study. Only 43 have no idea. They read the book and answer a question they can. Only one student was able to do it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So that's why we are doing this. So with all this resources you have in front of you, there is literally no room for you to. But make sure don't be delayed on the redos, because you don't want to lose any point if it's not possible. So
Right.
homeworks and quizzes, usually students in my class pass with flying colors because they don't lose any points anywhere except the exams. The only place if you lose any points, it has to be the exam. But if
Okay.
you know your material, you can't lose there either.
Right.
So
Okay. Sounds good. Well,
that's
thank
pretty much all I have to say. Do you all have any last questions for me? Any particular question?
Not right now, I don't think.
Nope.
The homework one and quiz one grades are excluded from your grade, but if you watched my last Zoom session, I did say I saved those points for your rainy day. Say you're at 88 and you need a 2 point to get an A, I will transfer points from that 2 points. I
Nice.
will not transfer all the points. I will only transfer exactly what you will need to get an A in the class or B in the class.
Okay.
However, even if you got a 0 on homework, it will have no impact on your grade, because again, I made a mistake with the homework one, so I had to make that exception to both the quiz and the homework, because homework is fundamental to any class, and if there is a mistake there, I can't let that happen. So
Okay.
that's that. And so I will send a formal email and I will post your grades for homework 2 later tonight or tomorrow morning. Just keep on the lookout. But even if you don't receive it by tomorrow evening, it's no big deal. You're not going to redo the entire homework. You're going to do a couple of problems. But
Okay.
you will receive an email with me with all details about homework redo, quizzes, and everything. All right?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Have a good rest of the weekend, and
You too.
stay up and study hard.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.